All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us here at Van Buren Township on a informational meeting on a nice April evening. We are going to run this meeting as a purely remote format, and we have a few members of the Van Buren Township team I'd like to introduce. And the first person who will speak is Supervisor McNamara, who's with us tonight. We also have some members of our Board of Trustees. And we also have our Public Services Director, Larry Luckett, and our Township Engineering Consultants, Dave Potter and Paul Kamer of Fishbeck, who are going to help guide the presentation tonight. So I'll let Supervisor McNamara give a brief introduction. Then I'll speak briefly about the format of the meeting and how you can participate after he speaks, and then we'll get into it from there. So go ahead, Supervisor McNamara.
Welcome. I just wanted to say, first of all, that we're doing this with the best intentions. The board has expressed its desire to help out Haggerty Sub as best it can. We are paying for the engineering at considerable cost. We're paying for a lot of the other areas that we can. I've got a crackerjack team. I've got great engineers, and so I'm going to be pretty much the background, and you can probably take me up as a panelist once the slideshow starts. Thank you. Go get them, Larry.
All right, Supervisor, thank you. And just again, a brief mention about the format of tonight's meeting. This is again a virtual meeting. I'm going to just toggle the screen briefly here. And the way that you can participate is going to be that you can either dial *9, you can type comments into the chat, and you can, if you're the dial *9 is if you're on the phone, and then as far as the computer-based options, you can type into our chat, or you can use the virtual hand raise or raise hand option with the little icon at the bottom of your screen. I will mention that we are being recorded tonight. This meeting will be published to YouTube, the township's YouTube channel, and this is being recorded. So just to be mindful of that. But we certainly invite your conversation, your questions, and your comments. However, there's a lot of information that we think it's important to go over before we get into those comments and questions. So as you'll see in the slides I'll put up on the screen very shortly here, the format is going to be that there will be a presentation followed by your comments and questions. And when we get to your comments and questions, what we'll do is read the comments that were stated in the chat first and try to answer those. And then we can get into verbal comments and questions from there. So with no further ado, I'd like to turn this over to our Public Services Director, Larry Luckett, to give a little bit more of an overview before we go into the details of our Township Engineers presentation. So Director Luckett, the floor is yours, I guess. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Powers. Well, thank you everyone for coming out tonight and participating in this informational meeting for Van Buren Township's first sidewalk repair replacement project. This is a little bit different. We're gonna have introductions, and then again, as Dan Powers said earlier, we have a presentation from Fishbeck. Then we'll have questions and answers. And then we'll have our next steps. With that said, you know, I've been out there in the sub. Some of you may have seen me and some of you may have not, but I'm the project manager for this project. Feel free to give me a call if you have any questions or concerns as it relates to this project. We want your input. You know, we want to do the best job for you out there and ensure that you have safe sidewalks moving forward after this project is complete. So with that said, I'll turn it over to our Fishbeck team, Mr. Dave Potter.
Mr. Potter, you are muted.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just doing a sound check. Dan, am I coming through okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I just want to confirm that I have control. There we go. Thank you very much. Okay. So my name is Dave Potter. I'm an engineer with Fishbeck. Tonight, I have Paul Kamer with me, one of my associate engineers, and we were asked to help Van Buren Township put together a sidewalk replacement repair program. This particular project is a pilot project, and the purpose of the meeting tonight is to talk about the township's desire to proceed with implementing the program for 2022 for Van Buren Estates. A lot of folks call it Haggerty Sub, phases 1 through 4. Well, we're going to communicate tonight the project details, the schedule, and estimated cost, and then go through what the next steps are. First of all, the township ordinance was recently reviewed by the township board. First reading on March 15th of 2022, second reading on April 5th of 2022. And the primary purpose was the board considered a repayment plan, and they're indicating that at this time, they're most likely to approve a maximum of 3 years for property owners to make payments toward the improvements that are required. If the costs are not paid in full before the winter tax statement's issued, the cost will be added to the tax bill over the next 3 years if that's the period that's approved. There's a Wayne County general permit issued to the township that allows work within the county right-of-way, so that privilege is extended to the property owners via the ordinance. The project area map, as you can see here, there's 4 subdivisions in Van Buren Estates, 1 through 4. Subdivisions, phases 1 through 4. These were all built in the early 70s. Phases 1 through 4 are typically 4 foot wide, and phase 4 is generally 5 foot wide. We developed a trip hazard identification criteria when we were putting this together. We looked at, removing the worst of the worst out there, the worst trip hazards that are out there. We developed a graphic guide here for the marking key, and you see some green dots sprayed out there and some red dots, and the green dots are the responsibility of the property owner to pay for. The red dots will be the township. So you'll see differential settlement. There's cracked concrete, cracked joints and open joints, surface deterioration, and then there's utility structures that can cause tripping hazards out there. On the corners, there's no ramps, but the flat work that's there, some of it is settled behind the curb. So if they're marked, those are identified to be replaced. Again, the green dot, red dots, green dot are the property owner's responsibility. The red are the townships. And with that marking criteria, we're also using some common sense here to try and look at unforeseen problems or future hazardous areas that may develop. And if we see that trend, then we included them as part of this project. We developed a pamphlet that was handed out to residents that were wondering, what was going on with people marking up or taking the coordinates out there. So this was handed out to several folks that identified the marking key and the goal of the project. It included a provision that the township is extending to the property owners that if you wish to replace it or repair it by yourself as a property owner, we'll go through that process and what repairs are being made by the township. The red arrow there points to what we're not doing. We're not doing driveways. Those are private, as including the driveway ramps and the sidewalk, the driveway sidewalk. The ramp, the approach and the sidewalk, they're generally 6 inches. So all the sidewalk we're replacing is 4 inches. This is the current project schedule. I'll zoom in here in a second. The top portion is the planning portion, the field data collection and preparation of the specifications. What you see in red is getting into the bidding and advertising and the construction. There's also a nested schedule in there so that if you as a property owner wish to participate. So there's been 2 public meetings here, one in April 27th in 2021. And then today is the second one, April 21st. As you can see, we've been marching along the process here, and the sidewalk condition assessment is scheduled to be completed May 6th, and I'm proud to announce we completed all the assessment today. We'll be developing plans, and then these will go to the township board for consideration and approval. We're looking at early May. And should they decide to proceed with the program, then the first thing that you'll receive is a notice. And in that notice, it's going to include the estimated replacement cost based on the number of flags that we identified based on that marking criteria. And we're using an estimated construction cost of $10 per square foot. And you'll get that letter probably about mid-May there. And one of the key provisions of the program is you'll have to respond. We circle up the RSVP. You have to respond within 30 days. If you're going to let the township know that you intend to replace it or repair it by your own forces, you have 30 days, and you have to apply for a permit through the township. And then the work has to be completed within 90 days. So you'll see that arrow pointing down to August 11th, about mid-August. And the purpose is so that if you're not going to repair it yourself, it stays on the township inventory rolls for what the contractor will be bidding. And then we get into advertising and bidding the project. We anticipate that if it's advertised and bids are open, that the contractor will perform their construction out there in the months of August, September, and October. We estimate about 87 days in final completion by the end of October, and our goal is to get them out of there before Halloween. There'll be a project closeout period toward the end of October and November, and then you'll receive a second letter which identifies the final replacement cost, and that's going to be based upon the actual final work that's done and the bid prices that are received by the township by the contractor. So the first thing we did is we prepared our base maps in order to perform the field condition assessment. We utilized the township's existing GIS system. So it saved a lot of time and money to use the records they had on hand already. And as you can see, there's a lot of lots out here, 716. And so first thing we do is we go and we mark up the concrete based on that marking key. This particular property, the homeowner has already painted those cracks where there's trip hazards, and you can see the tree there. Those roots have grown over the past 50 years and just heaved that concrete there, creating some trip hazards. And the green dots that you see there, we sprayed those. And then our technician here, this is Aaron, he's our GPS technician. That the little instrument collects X and Y coordinates, so we know exactly where that's at on the map. And then he's taking photographs of each particular sidewalk flag. And the flag is typically the square 4x4, 5x5, but that can vary depending on where the contractor put the contraction joint in at the time. So in phase one, there's 298 parcels, and the dots you see on there are the actual points where we picked up data and we took photographs. This is 4 foot wide. Phase two, 143. Again, these are all completed, so you can see where the work is clustered there by the string of flags, concrete, flags that have to be replaced or repaired. In phase three, same thing. This was finished up today, as a matter of fact. And then phase four is 164 lots, and this is the one that has 5 foot. And somewhere between 72, 73, the design and construction standards probably changed, requiring the 5 foot wide sidewalk. That's why there's a difference there. So zooming in on a particular lot there, and if I just click on one of the dots, a table pops up there. That's a GIS attribute table. That's what the technician is filling out as he's walking around getting these coordinate points. He's populating that table, and he's taking pictures, and we're collecting all the metadata. and there's a particular photo for that particular slab. It's identified why. All the data goes in a spreadsheet like this. It's a township will use to generate the letters. And you can see on the right side, depending on how many concrete flags need to be repaired, will yield the estimate for what would be put in the letter. This particular example is again that lot, and if I pull up the data for that, this one has 6 flags that total 112 square feet. And again, at $10 a square foot, what this individual receives a letter saying that, you know, it's estimated that their bill will be $1,120. I've underlined something there that just to remind everybody that the actual cost will be based upon the final quantities and the bid prices received by the township for this project. Should you choose to perform the work yourself or by your subcontractor, the items you see in red here are the dates. And I've put it more in this format here that once the township issues a notice, it include the estimate. You have to RSVP within 30 days. You have to apply for a no fee permit. So the township is, because it's a pilot project, they've agreed to not require an application fee or inspection fees for this. The property owner must contact the township and request a permit to pour, and I'll review that in the next slide. But that permit to pour basically requires that the contractor, before he pours the concrete, receives approval of those forms before pouring the concrete. The property owner must call for a final inspection and approval, and all repairs must meet township approval or rework will be required. No different than your plumbing or electrical. If they're not meeting the details and the requirements, they've got to redo that to comply with the details there. Sidewalk repairs must be completed within 90 days, mid-August here, August 11th. And any property owner that doesn't RSVP, or if the work doesn't get completed in those 90 days, will stay or go back on the township replacement inventory. So if you decide to do it, what are the acceptable repair methods or criteria? And there's 2 right now. Remove and replace the 4-inch thick sidewalk flags, or you can level them, or what's called mudjacking. And I'll get into these in a second. So remove and replace, you know, the process is typically either you or your contractor, you apply for the permit. Again, no application fee, no inspection fee. You remove the existing sidewalk, the roots, you prepare the base, you replace, you know, you place sidewalk forms in accordance with township details. The sidewalk details will be attached to the permit application. And then when you call the township back under the permit to pour protocol, they will come out and measure the slope of those forms, and also check the depth to make sure that your contractor is putting in the right thickness of concrete. It's at the right slope to drain toward the road. You know, the property owner then constructs a new sidewalk and providing the surface and edge finish. So you see the broom finish, and then the edge is typically a groover, grooving the edge. And you'll be required, or your contractor, to provide the material certs to show that you use the right strength of concrete. And then you've got to do restoration, again, all within accordance with the sidewalk details. So that last photo there shows typically what it looks like, and if you're using a you know, qualified professional contractor, they really try and minimize the amount of disruption to the lawn, because they try and minimize the restoration. One thing I'll mention is that the property owners in the application, you'll have to identify the location of your sprinklers, or if you have invisible fences, you know, for pets and things like that, just so that they don't damage that or minimize that damage. The permit to pour, basically, again, with that instrument, that's the level that's called a smart level. It's a digital level, and the township will then go out there and they issue the permit to pour, so the contractor knows that they have a green light to continue the process. Another one is a criteria is mudjacking. This is concrete leveling. This process would be allowed, and again, there'll be a detail for this showing where it's allowed and where it's not allowed, but common sense will tell you if you've got a good slab, that mudjacking or leveling is potentially a solution. And what a contractor does, and you can see in the red photo there, the truck in the back, they show one individual here, but there's typically 4 people involved. They drill 1-inch holes through your concrete. They mix up a cementatious material. It's like a sand and limestone slurry, and they pump that under pressure, 3,000 to 4,000 psi, and then they take turns going from hole to hole to lift and jack up that slab. The photos that you see on the left there are before and afters. This is stuff you'll see online, and when you look at the advertisements. They also use a polyurethane foam to inject it, and it expands and it lifts. There's pros and cons of using both. This is a buyer beware. Like anything, you need to vet out your subcontractors to make sure that they're going to get the job done for you. The reason you have to pull a permit is for your protection, so that the township is inspecting, permit to pour if they're removing and replacing the sidewalk, or if they're going to mudjack it or level it out with polyurethane, that the proper slopes are being put in place. There's a list of frequently asked questions that's on the current township website, and I might be able to go through some of these here. I'm having trouble zooming in on this, but I'll do my best here. I'll read these off and provide the answers, and then there'll be a question answer. So one of the questions is, will I have to pay to fix sidewalks for other properties if there's no damage or replacement needed on my property? The answer is no. Property owners will only pay for the sidewalk replacement costs incurred for replacement adjacent to their own property. Second question being asked is it possible Wayne County or the township will assist in paying for sidewalks in need of replacing? Short answer, no. There's no current grant funding or current ability for the county or the township to pay for the sidewalk replacement. Township staff are investigating other sources of possible funding, but the township has taken on the burden of the engineering and the development cost, and also the no application fee and the no inspection. Third question, will replacement of the sidewalk kill trees close to the sidewalk on my property? So if tree roots need to be cut in order to properly install the sidewalk, it's possible that the trees may die or be stressed, although it's rare. But township staff will provide guidance on how to properly care for the trees in this situation to give them the best chance for survival. So in the application package, we'll probably include some guidance that an arborist would recommend, such as deep root fertilization. They inject nutrients there so that it helps the tree from getting stressed, or you can stake in fertilizer stakes. Next question is, what factors are considered that would warrant the need to replace a slab of sidewalk? So slope grade change, cracking, spalling, and crumbling are all considered. If there's a difference of 3/4 inch or more, that was our mark for marking these in the marking guide in the key. There's a set of engineering practices that we follow to determine if it needs to be replaced. Next question is, what is the cost of replacement? So what we're basing this on is $10 per square foot. So if your flag is 5 by 5, that's 25 square feet. It gives you, that's $250 per slab. So if you got 4 of them, it's going to be 1,000 and so on. The next group of questions are, what if I decide not to replace a sidewalk that is marked for needing replacement? So under the program, all sidewalks marked will be replaced and billed to the adjacent property owner. If there's a question from a property owner regarding the decision, our Director of Public Services, that's Mr. Larry Luckett, will meet and review the decision and be available for you for questions. Who is responsible for paying for the removal of damaged trees? The trees in the right-of-way are under the jurisdiction of Wayne County. Trees on private property are the responsibility of the property owner. Next question is, what is expected, the expected time frame for the program? As you saw in the schedule, we anticipated in 2022. This is going over a 6-month. The actual construction may be over a 3-month period of August, September, and October. Approximately how long will the new sidewalk expected to last? 20 years is a typical lifespan for these before they start needing maintenance and repairs. Obviously, the sidewalk that's out there has been out there for 50 years. Some of it is in good shape, but if it's settled or got frost heaved or the roots got hold of it, obviously you can see it gets moved around. Last question that's on the website is the township going to assist in coordinating a lead contractor for the program in the subdivision? The short answer is yes. Township will be bidding out the replacement to contractors on a large scale, and that'll bring a better price. I think right now we haven't completed our final edits to the work. Again, we just finished today, but there's probably about 50,000 square feet of sidewalk that has to be replaced. And so when you're doing that kind of volume, obviously for the scale, you get better pricing. So we're hoping that when contractors look at this project, that they'll be, at or close to that number. And then residents will still have the option of replacing their own sidewalks with their own contractor if they so choose. So I'm going to hand this back to Dan for questions and answers. It's been my pleasure, and I'm available to answer questions as they come. Dan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Potter. I appreciate the presentation. Hopefully, our hope or thought was that maybe some of those frequently asked questions were some of the same questions you folks on the chat had tonight. But that being said, it's a free forum for discussion. What I'll do is just kind of moderate the questions that we have again in writing first. We'll try to keep track of the new ones that pop in that chat box as we go. But once we get through the written questions, we'll go into some people who raise their virtual hand. And just as a reminder, we have looks like we have some good participation from the neighborhood. We also have our supervisor, our treasurer, and some trustees with us tonight. So great turnout. Thanks, everybody. Why don't we get right into the questions, and I'll leave this slide up while we do that. So the first one in the chat that I see, and then I'll go to there's a Q&A box also. The first one in the chat is Wayne County tree is the cause of my sidewalk upheaval. Thank you for the engineering cost, but shouldn't the responsible party pay for the encroachment of their tree roots? So that is a really good question. Mr. Potter, maybe you can fill in some gaps here. This program is really focused on the sidewalk, the cost to remove the roots that are affecting the sidewalk and the sidewalk itself. Maybe you have some insights on the responsible party for the tree roots.
Okay, yeah, it's a great question. So it's a question of who put the tree there, and even if it was planted by the original subdivision developer, a homeowner, or the county, the ordinance requires the homeowners to keep the sidewalk in good shape, basically, in safe passage. And this is common throughout the region and the country that small trees do become big trees, and as those roots grow, they've got to be managed like anything else. And some people do trim the roots, but if they get out of hand, then whether it's on the private property, on the property owner's side, or the Wayne County side, they get under those slabs and start raising them. So the position of the township for this pilot project is that regardless if it's on private property or in the right of way, it's going to be the property owner's responsibility to put the sidewalks back in good shape there.
All right, thank you. The next question is from Pam to the hosts and panelists. And I'm sorry, the first question came from Mr. Mark Farber. Sorry if I mispronounced that, Mr. Mark. But the second question is from a Pam. Will Wayne County be putting in handicapped sidewalks on the county's corners? Another great question. That's something that is not going to be a part of this, the sidewalk in front of the individual lots. So Dave, do you have some good insights?
Sure. Sure. So this is not a road replacement program. So it's not mandated for the sidewalks. If the roads are being improved, then it's typically mandated that handicap ramps, the ADA ramps are put in at the corners. So this project is just removing major trip hazards. So it doesn't mandate that those are replaced at this time.
All right, I now have a couple of questions from a Tony and a Vicky, but those came in kind of recently. I'm going to go over to the Q&A. I saw that some people put questions in the Q&A, so I'll toggle over there. But from here on out, if you could use that chat, I'll just try to answer the questions in there primarily. But there's a couple questions here in the Q&A. There's an anonymous attendee who's asking, will residents have access to this presentation as a resource tool? And I'll answer that one right now. Certainly you will. You will have this recording available, and we also will have the slides up on the website for the sidewalk program, which is the same site that you saw the information for tonight's meeting about. And then the second question in the Q&A is another anonymous attendee. The comment is, hi there, we live on a corner lot and have 24 slabs flagged, which at $250 a slab, we're looking at $6,000 at least. Is there a way that we can get a grant or some help, considering it's wildly higher than non-corner lots? Is there a way to extend the 3-year payback? If not, and what is the interest way to pay it back?
I can answer one portion of that, Dan, and Larry can confirm this, but again, the township is stepping up here, where if they agree to the 3-year program, there won't be an interest charge on the balance, you know, if it goes on the tax rolls. Am I correct, Larry?
Absolutely. So you will have a 3-year period to pay back the repayment for the cost of the repair.
Okay. And then the corner lots do have more sidewalk frontage. That's one aspect just that we have to keep in mind. I'm going to go back over to some questions in the chat. I think the next one was going to be from Tony to the host and panelists. How do you determine when part or most of the slab is on adjusting property owner, or maybe that's it?
Yeah, I think the adjoining. I can answer that because we GPS the center of those slabs. When we go through and do our final check of all the data, our GIS specialists will look at where the property lines are relative to those coordinates, and those slabs will be, you know, if there's a slab in the middle, then one property owner pays for half and the other pays for half. So it might be a third and 2/3. So because we have the coordinates, that's how they're going to be adjusted. One person won't have to pay for the whole slab. It'll be split up accordingly.
All right, we have a question from Vicky. are they going to raise our taxes even if we fix our sidewalk ourselves? And the answer would be, and Dave and Larry can fill in the gaps here if I miss it, but basically you do have the option to pull the permit and do the repair yourself. That's going to be part of the communication we give in this first letter following our assessment. You'll have a window in which you can apply to do the repair yourself. So that wouldn't affect your taxes.
And the other thing with how home values developed and appraised, with comps, the homes are, because there's sidewalk in the whole subdivision, when you're looking at comp sales, the sidewalks come into play equally, no matter what state of repair or disrepair they're in. So fixing them is not going to affect their taxes.
All right. The next one is from Michelle Littleson. I was told I need permission from Wayne County to cut their tree down. I don't feel I need to fix the sidewalk that will be keep upheaving from a tree I can't cut down.
Yeah, so I can respond to part of that, Dan. Part of the requirement when we talk to the township's general contractor, whoever's awarded this project, there'll be details for how they have to cut and treat those roots. And typically they cut the root at the sidewalk, either with a chainsaw, they go down. And then once they remove the pavement, they take a stump grinder and they grind those roots down below grade to where that concrete has to be put in. And again, because the township has a general permit, this is allowed as part of this project. And so if you're going to repair it yourself, because there's an ordinance that requires you to do it, you're going to be covered under the permit. Now, if you want to come and cut that tree in the future, that could be a Wayne County issue if it's not related to the sidewalk.
All right, thank you, Mr. Potter. At this point, it looks like we've gotten all the comments out there in the chat. I will mention one of the first comments in our chat was just a hello, everyone, from our trustee, Reggie Miller. And
Trustee.
And the trustee.
The trustee's names.
Trustee Reggie Miller is here. I'm going to just mention who else is here with us, and then we can go into if there's any hands raised. So let's see. Treasurer Bud is here with us tonight. As I mentioned earlier, Trustee Miller. Not seeing. We have Supervisor McNamara. He actually stopped by over here.
Hi.
He's having technical difficulties in his room, so he's in here with me now. And I'm sure our other trustees will be paying close attention to this project as well. At this point, we have no other written comments or questions, so I'm going to go over to our participants raising their hands. And I apologize, I don't know who raised their hand first, so I'm going to go to the top on my list here, which is Larry Dobbs. And Mr. Dobbs, if you get a chance, just mention your address too. And we'll try to see if we can get addresses from people as they contribute to the conversation here. But Mr. Dobbs, I'll bring you into the chat here, and you should be able to talk now. If you could just unmute. All right, Mr. Dobbs, looks like you're unmuted, so. Oh, I heard a little bit there. Let's give it a few more seconds. Mr. Dobbs, if you could speak, and then maybe we'll try again later. Maybe you could type us a comment. Yeah, we're not hearing you. So I'll I'll give that a little bit. I'll leave you unmuted, but I'm going to ask, we have a Yusuf here who I'll bring in to talk as well and see if we're able to hear him. So Yusuf, let me lower your hand and bring you in. Yusuf, if you could unmute. So we are not hearing you either, and you're still showing as muted. Oh, there you go. Okay, Yusuf, I hear you now.
Yes, how you doing?
Good. How about you?
Good. I live on 10989 Jackson Court,
Got it.
and I live on a corner lot, just like everybody was complaining. Are the corner lots, I have like 14 things that are marked, and I don't really see anything wrong with them. They're not cracked or nothing. What is it? I guess even if they're not leveled, you guys are gonna have to replace them too?
Some of the criteria is if they're a potential trip hazard or they're cracked or more significantly deteriorated. But one of the things we're looking out for is a trip hazard. So maybe Dave, you could weigh in on if maybe it's just not level or something like that. It's still going to fall under our criteria. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'd have to look at why those flags were selected, but you also one of the options you're going to have is to follow up with Mr. Larry Luckett if you need those type of questions answered, because he has access to the photographs that were taken. So you can either get together with him in the office, or if field meeting at your home is necessary as a follow-up, that's available to you.
Yeah, because I'm on some of us are on fixed incomes, disability, like I'm on disability, and I don't know. In 3 years is 14. I mean, that's looking like maybe $5,000-6,000. I don't know what size is my over here. They're 5 foot or 4 foot, but
Yeah, I'm not familiar with where your address is, so I'd have to look at
the
that.
Haggerty sub area.
Do you know what phase you're in?
Jackson Street, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting some feedback, but yeah, I'm sorry, we can't look at it here
Okay.
online, but I would suggest that you follow up with Larry.
Okay.
Mr. Luckett can help you
Okay.
out with that.
Yes, please. Yusuf, if you will contact my office and we'll come out and take a look and kind of explain and understand why they were marked up, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Maybe we can try Mr. Dobbs again. I see his hand was re-raised, so maybe Mr. Dobbs, are you able to speak now?
I'm trying. The question is, if the slab is repaired and they break the one behind it, who's responsible for that one?
I can answer that, Dan. So our details are going to require that the contractor saw cut the joints, and if they break that adjacent slab that's not called out to be repaired, the contractor is responsible to repair that or replace it.
That's my main question. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We will have the ability to videotape as well as needed at the beginning of the assessment. All right, I see, let's see, the only other hand raised has been lowered at this point. Unless, Larry, did you have anything, Mr. Dobbs, did you have anything else you wanted to ask? All right. right, I think Mr. Dobbs is all set then. Anybody else? We will certainly be accessible. Director Luckett will be available for questions, and other folks here at the township will be available for assistance too, but want to make sure we're getting all your comments tonight. So now I see Connie Fink has her hand raised. I'll go ahead and bring you in, Ms. Fink. Okay, there we go. Sorry for the slight delay there.
Good evening.
Hi there.
Hello. I have a question dealing with these slides. How do we know what phase we're in? Because it's so small, we don't know what phase we're in.
That's a great question. We'll be able to pull that up using our map or our GIS system. Larry, it looks like you might have something to add to that. I saw you unmute there.
Yeah, Ms. Fink, absolutely. You can contact my office and we'll be able to tell you exactly where you fall at in phase 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to figure out which slabs I need to replace because I've walked my property myself, and according to what I've seen, there's 9 that I need to replace. I just bought this house 2 years ago, and it's just like, okay, now all of a sudden they're wanting me to replace all these, and I can't afford that. And I don't know if they're the 4 foot or the 5 foot.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have to pull a loan out to get these repaired.
Yeah, if I can make a comment, Dan, Connie, part of what the township is doing is once you receive the letter for the estimate, you'll have a choice of either trying to get them repaired yourself, and if you can't get a price that's reasonable from a contractor, you can choose to let the township put them in their have the work completed by their general contractor. And if you can't pay the total at the time, the township is going to allow you to put it on your tax bill and then pay for that over 3 years without interest.
I understand that, but my taxes are done through an escrow.
Correct.
So, well, how would that work out? Because I don't pay my own taxes. My finance company does.
Yeah, so typically what happens is there's a payment plan made with the township to pay that portion of the assessment. And whether I don't believe it's going to be through the escrow. I think it's going to be an individual payment plan back to the township assessor. And again, it's going to be a no interest loan basically for the 3 years is my understanding at this point.
So it would not go to my mortgage company to be paid through my escrow. Then it would be something I would have to pay yearly.
That is something that still needs to be, resolved. So when this decision goes to the township board, they'll consider that. And maybe Dan, somebody else can address that right now.
Yeah, Ms. Fink. So I tell you what, next week, contact my office and we'll figure out how that would actually work. We don't want to give any bad information. So we know we're going to allow it to be over 3 years assessed to your tax bill. So I can't say that that's going to be part of the bill that goes to your mortgage company or not. So
Okay.
Contact me. I will definitely have your answer.
Okay. Yeah, I will definitely be contacting you because I need to know what phase I'm in as well. So I know whether they're 4 feet or 5 feet.
Yes, ma'am. Please.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm gonna unmute. As I mentioned, I have Supervisor McNamara here, and he's got some insight on this.
I have a lot of engineers in the building. Yeah, at escrow, if you're short of your escrow, so say your escrow has is for $1,000 worth of taxes and you rack up 1,500. Your escrow they pay it, and then your escrow redoes itself for the next year, and they divide that $500 shortfall up between your 12 monthly payments.
Oh, okay. That makes sense because that's what happened with my taxes. The first year I didn't pay enough, and then the second year, and then they had to adjust it up. And then
There
they
you
just
go.
adjusted my monthly payments. Okay, thank you. I was ready. Do I have to fill out a loan or can I still use my escrow? I wasn't for sure.
Yeah, and I'm probably making a bold statement here, but I'm gonna say this. I'm paying for the engineering, I'm paying for the oversight, I'm paying
Right.
for all this stuff. And I've got 5,000 square feet of concrete to replace. You're probably better off just waiting and letting us do it because we're
Oh,
going to
definitely.
get an excellent price.
Oh, definitely. No, I'm definitely gonna have you do it. I just want to make sure I can afford it.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, let's see. All right, I'll give it maybe a little bit longer here. There's still plenty of people out there attending tonight's meeting. Maybe all your questions were answered, but feel free to raise your hand or drop something else in the chat. We'll be glad to try to answer it here. All right, I'm not seeing anything else in the chat. So at this point, I'll say we're kind of off to the races. If anybody else does drop anything else in the chat, we'll address it before the end of the meeting. But you know, we're rounding the end here, or just finished our preliminary conditions assessment or sidewalk marking exercise, right, Dave? So maybe you can talk about the next steps to be expected in this process on the last slide here. I'll turn this back over to you.
Okay. So once we complete checking all our records for the GIS coordinates, and then we're going to be splitting out those sidewalks that are on adjacent, property lines. Then the data will be ready to be sent to the township, and we'll have an estimate for the project cost, and then that will go back before the township board for consideration. And if they approve it, then that data will be taken, and then the first letter will be prepared and sent to the individual property owners. So that's the next step. And in the meantime, the permit process for property owners to do the work themselves will be developed, and then it'll be available for them to decide within that 30 days after receiving that letter if they want to try and repair or replace it themselves. And it's that last slide there. There you go.
There we go. Sorry, everybody.
So, so again, our hope is that it goes to before the board for consideration. May 10th may be the meeting. Again, we're a little ahead of schedule, so should be able to make that. And then the letter should come out May 13th, and then 30 days later is you have to have pulled a permit by then, by June 13th. So you got a while to, you can count flags, you can measure, you can call Larry to see if it's how many square feet, you may have, especially if you live on a corner. You're paying for two sides there. Give you an idea of how many square feet if you're concerned with that now, but you can go measure the width of the sidewalk. It's either going to be 4 feet wide or 5 feet wide. And each particular panel or flag is typically 4 by 4 or 5 by 5, but some are a little wider. They could be 4 by 5, 4 by 6, 4 by 2. It just depends on where the contractor at the time cut the joint there. Some of the 5 foot wide could be 5 by 6. So on average, you can estimate it using 5 by 5, but if you want to measure them, you can measure them. We've measured them. They're estimates. Again, the final cost will be based on the actual work that's done there. So I hope that answers those questions there. But again, you'll have to have the work done within 90 days. it's a pretty tight schedule to be able to start in August and complete it by the end of October. You're muted.
All
There you
righty,
go.
so I do have few questions that showed up in the chat, and maybe I missed them earlier. Let me just make sure I'm catching everything. Got through the tree question. We do have a comment from a B. Williams. I just wanted to say I think this program is a good thing. The sidewalks are getting out of control. Kids can't even ride bikes without falling or going into the road to avoid falling. So comment there. From Tony, is the 10 square foot a set, $10 per square foot a set price, or could it be cheaper if bid from contractor is lower? Certainly a good estimate, right, Dave? Could be a different.
Right. It could be cheaper. It could be higher. It just depends on market prices at the time that they're bidding and how many contractors we will attract.
Okay. Next one from Mark Farber again. I have lived in this sub for 18 years. We had the best and quickest snow plowing this year. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. That's a good comment. Glad to hear it. And then from Pam, if you are north of McBride, you are the newer part of the sub. South of McBride is the older part of the sub. So that gives an idea of when everything was built and how this was kind of phased out.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Dan, if you want to go back on the slides, you can leave that project map up and people can get an idea of what phase they're in.
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of trouble toggling over to my slide deck. So
I gotcha.
excuse me-
Yeah.
excuse the delays while I do that, but I'll try to do that again here. Everybody seeing that again?
Yes.
Good. All right. Any other questions from our participants? Now is a good time to ask them, but again, we'll be available after tonight's meeting also.
So Dan, and again, this is Van Buren first sidewalk program. So please reach out to my office. I will do everything in my power to answer all your questions, get everything answered. And we here to work with you. So thank you all for participating. I appreciate it. And I'll see you all soon.
All right. Yep. Well said, Larry. Dave, anything else to add, or?
I'm all set. Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure helping put this program, and we're looking forward to a successful project here.
And thank you very much for coming out. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call us. We're trying to make this as painless as possible. After 50 years, though, there will be some pain. But we're trying. So give us a call if there's anything we can do or make you feel better about. I hope.
All right. Thank you, Supervisor. Sorry, Supervisor, for inadvertently removing you from your spot on the webinar there. But yep, thanks, everybody. We look forward to talking to you soon. Feel free to reach out anytime. And we'll talk to you later. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks.
Okay.